Welcome to the channel, everyone. My name is Nick. For those that are new to the channel, hopefully by the end of this video, you do become a subscriber. So on this channel, we do talk quite heavily about utility, obviously. We make a lot of videos on XRP, HBAR, XLM, etc. And, one project that I feel like doesn't get a lot of attention. Now, yes, I've talked about Algorand a million times on this channel, but it still does not get as much love as like XRP or HBAR. Now, let's just be honest here. XRP has been doing tremendously well. The last year it's up 382%. HBAR is up about 164%. And then Algorand on the last year, it's about 45%. Now, Algorand hasn't done much. That's why not a lot of people actually care to look into Algorand right now. A lot of people kind of, completely forgot about Algorand. By the way, this is one of a few projects that actually hit all-time lows during the bear market lows, right? We hovered right under roughly 9 cents, and this was significant. This was actually very significant. Now, I know that on this chart, we have this wick back in 2020. That's actually not accurate. I don't think any exchange actually has this wick. I might be wrong on that, but I've never seen this wick at all on any, major chart. But when we look at the all-time low, about a year ago, Algorand is up about 217% from that level. Even on the previous wick to the upside, we were almost up by like 10x. We're just like 20 cents away. But regardless, this is just a starting point for Algorand, in my opinion. I do think that this one is going to perform very well this cycle. And again, a lot of people don't look into Algorand, but the supply and the overall fundamental utility behind Algorand is what really, makes me very bullish on Algorand, right? Like when we look at most of these utility projects, and not to kind of throw these under the bus, but XRP has a total supply of 99.98 billion. The circulating supply is 57.81 billion. The fully diluted value here is $267 billion. HBAR has 41.9 billion circulating supply, 50 billion total supply, fully diluted value of roughly $11.01 billion. When we look at Algorand, guys, 10 billion total supply, 8.44 billion circulating, fully diluted value $2.77 billion. I have always said that Algorand could hit $10. It would have a value of $100 billion tied to it. Now, is it going to happen? We have no idea. It's possible, though. The reason why I say that is because ADA, Dogecoin, a lot of these projects in the top 10 have hit close to or even beyond $100 billion in market cap. I would settle for Algorand being worth about $50 billion, sitting at about roughly almost $5. I'm totally fine with that. And I do think that there is enough information and enough substance behind Algorand to actually push it to those levels. But let's actually talk about that. Let's address, this price prediction for Algorand, as well as, we'll say $5, right? That's my conservative price prediction for Algorand in 2025, $5. If we're going, moon boy targets, $10. But if we look at the quarter four report of Algorand, we could see a lot of growth happening. And here we have the market cap. So market cap obviously grew. The market was doing very well. That's not what I'm really kind of focused on here. I'm focused on new addresses. So the new addresses on Algorand actually increased 176% quarter over quarter, from 1.3 million to 3.5 million. That is a very big jump. Average daily transactions also increased 66% quarter over quarter to 3.5 million. Love to see it. Settlement, a European fintech company, migrated from Ethereum to Algorand. We are starting to see dominance being usurped from Ethereum in a big way, but that was back in October of 2024, leveraging Algorand's atomic transactions and multi-sig approvals to enhance efficiency and compliance for regulated payments. So listen, at the end of the day, we are seeing a lot of growth around the Algorand ecosystem, and I look forward to seeing quarter one of this year because, again, we're not yet over with quarter one, but compared to quarter four, I'm sure that a lot of things have changed a bit. Will we see these numbers drop? Probably, right? It hasn't been extremely bullish. The market has been down. But I still love to look into these quarterly reports because they provide us with an insight on how the actual ecosystem is doing. And so far, Algorand has been growing significantly. Outside of this, even if we go over to the Explorer, right? So we could actually explore the mainnet itself. So in the last year, the total accounts on Algorand went from roughly 34.7, we're going to round up, right? 34.7 million all the way up to about 41.7 million. That is a massive jump. We're talking almost, 7 million new accounts. That's insane. Also, the daily active addresses that are actually utilizing Algorand is roughly around 100,000, right? I'm going to round this down. It was 111,000. But, I'm going to round this down for the sake of me being conservative. So roughly the average is around 100,000. And we actually haven't even touched 100,000 since going all the way back to January of, this year, January 12th. So in the last month, we've been averaging roughly around 100K plus, which is very good to see. It means that there's a lot of use of the actual network. Addresses are actually being very active on the network as well. So that's a very good sign. Now, outside of just these basic stats, let's also go over here because now we can actually see some of the new accounts. Now, for the most part in 2024, we've actually averaged around roughly 300,000, 250K or so new accounts. Leading into September, we grew to 640,000 new accounts. October was almost 800,000 new accounts. November was about 1.2 million new accounts, which is insane. December was almost 900,000. And then, of course, January was over 1 million. By the way, if we look at the total accounts, I just showed you guys the total accounts full year. This is where a lot of that growth is coming from. I mean, even in the last month, we could see this number go from, 40.6 million to over 41.7 million. So over 1 million accounts in just the last month. By the way, transactions, if we go to the last year, we went from roughly 1.6 billion to almost 8 billion transactions. So over 1 billion transactions on Algorand. Now you might say, well, Nick, that's not much compared to like Hedera, for an example. Yeah, it really isn't that much compared to Hedera, but these are high transactional fee transactions. These are transactions that matter in a big way. And they are also very consistent. So far, Hedera, the transactions on Hedera have dropped significantly. Now, I'm sure that will be fixed, but I'm just saying we got to make sure that we are giving Algorand a lot of respect here. In terms of the transactional volume, like I said, in terms of like the actual types as well, we could actually see the types of transactions here. Most of these are from the actual applications, which is very good to see. And we could actually see here in January where all of those transactions were coming from. And also we could see December and November. Now in November, we saw a pretty big amount of applicational use or transactions, right? Which was about 78 million. But I just love to actually look into this and see a complete breakdown because we can see where all of the transactions are coming from, and it's pretty much a mix of everything. I mean, we see 28 million, 18 million, 2.7 million. So again, I love to see this mix, and it's just showing us that there's a lot of use of the actual network. Applications are being utilized on the network. Outside of this, January insights from the Algorand Foundation recently just got posted. We can actually see here, mainnet nodes increased by 179%, 52% rise in new assets since December, partly due to the TravelX expansion in NFT-based travel tickets. And then, of course, the network's TVL recovered, returning to early December levels by January 19th. Now, talking a little bit about the TVL, let's go over here to DeFi Llama. Guys, TVL on Algorand, 275 million. We recently hit a high of 516 million, so we did drop off a little bit, which is to be expected with the market, But guys, look at the amount of protocols that are on Algorand already in terms of the DeFi market. There's over 25. But what I'm mainly looking at here is volume, right? If we actually look at this thing on the monthly, we could see that January was close to the December, volume, about roughly almost $200 million in terms of just DeFi volume. Addresses, right? So this is again where we see a lot of the address growth. I think I have to go to the actual daily. So I remember that this was counting before, but active addresses, we could see it in the last 24 hours, 226,000. I don't know why this isn't working now. DeFi Llama has been sketchy, especially in a lot of the videos I do on HBAR, but regardless, we could see the core developers. Now, I would like to see this improve, which I think a lot of the hackathons that Algorand does have planned should fix this. We need a lot more dev activity on Algorand. It's just, that's just a big con right now of Algorand, because I'm not going to be fully biased and say like everything is good. No, core developers need some work. In terms of commits as well, we could see that the commits are low due to, of course, the low developer activities. But beyond that, Algorand volume as well. So if we actually look at this thing on the monthly, we could see the big spikes going all the way back to 2021. For an example, this was the bull market where Algorand hit $30 billion in terms of token volume. Recently, in December, guys, we hit over almost $5 billion. So again, there's a lot of adoption happening around Algorand. There's a lot of retail buying of Algorand as well, especially over the last couple months. I do expect this to return and grow in a big way, especially once the market does bounce back. And also, don't forget, a lot of these protocols on the bottom here, in terms of like some of the largest TVL players, like for an example, Folks Finance and even Lofty, guys, these are big players. Lofty is tokenizing real estate in a huge way, and this is one of the largest asset classes out there, worth over $300 trillion. And this is actually happening on Algorand. Algorand was one of like the first key players to also partner up with Archix for tokenization. So you could argue that Algorand has a huge step ahead of almost every single player in this space around tokenization efforts. Now, also, let's go back to this insights report, because this is kind of building upon this post here from the Algorand Foundation, where we do see a little bit more numbers, right? So we could see the full protocol numbers here in terms of the network, the ecosystem, and then also social. So here we have the number of live nodes on Algorand growing. This is monthly, by the way. So in January, the number of live nodes on Algorand surged significantly. Monthly ASAs also grew. They actually rallied against the November candle, which is very good to see, because in November we were roughly like 1.7 million, I believe. We almost got close to 2 million. And then, of course, Algorand TVL, again, bouncing back. Not too bad. Right now we are dropping. We're around like 300 million, as you guys did see. And then also down here we have some of the news updates around Algorand. There's actually been a lot happening. Now, I'm not going to go over all of this, but there's definitely been a lot going on here around Algorand, which is very good to see, because, again, we don't want these projects, like when we are investing into anything in this space, we always look at what's happening. The reason why I've been talking about Hedera quite often is because every single day there's a new announcement, there's a new partnership or some sort of big news event. Same with XRP, right? We've been hearing a lot of talk about tokenization, about banks wanting to utilize XRP potentially. There's been a lot of growth happening around that. And the same goes for Algorand, right? And I do apologize for the lack of updates on Algorand. I will definitely try to do better. But guys, when we think about Algorand, this is a blue chip. This is a big player in this space that doesn't get enough recognition. And with all of these big announcements, with all of the hackathons, queued up, and with some of the big moves that Algorand has been making recently, I just see this thing hitting $5 to $10 this cycle. I don't think that that's a crazy number at all, especially when we consider how big Algorand is in this space, especially when we consider all of the big growth happening around Algorand, and also, these events, these hackathons, things like that. I do think that that's going to bring in a lot more devs. I think that that's going to bring in a lot more growth of the ecosystem as well. So, I think that this is going to be a huge player and a huge winner this cycle. So definitely focus up and pay attention to what Algorand is doing. And with that being said, guys, this has been Nick. Thanks for watching. If you guys did enjoy this video, definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on because more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord down in the description below. And peace out, guys.